Hello, my name is Elizabeth, and we will be discussing the science of hope. How many of you have heard that hope is actually a science? It is grounded in research, data, and testing. We have been granted permission to share this information from Dr. Chan Hillman, who co-authored a book called Hope Rising. And he is a quantitative psychologist and the director of the Hope Research Center at the University of Oklahoma. Before we take a look at the science of hope, I want to spend a few minutes on our different character traits. There are 24 character traits on this slide, and they are all measurable. There are some online surveys that allow us to answer some questions and then get a report on their ranking order of these traits. If you take a look at these, you might be able to guess our top 5 strengths. And research shows that when we are using our top 5 strengths on a daily basis, we are operating to our strengths and being more productive and useful to those around us. But today we are here to learn more about the character of hope. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, hope is a science that is grounded in research, data, and testing. There are over 2,000 published studies into the power of hope. In the next few minutes, I will share with you some of the information that has been founded in various research studies. First, I'd like to hear from you. Let's take a few seconds to stop and think about what is hope. Is it an emotion or is it cognitive? When you hear the word hope, what comes to your mind? What does hope mean to you? Is hope an emotion or a cognition? The research shows us that hope is a mindset. It's a cognition. Hope is the belief that your future will be better than today, and you have the power to make it so. If we just use the first part, a belief in tomorrow, we will be talking about optimism. Optimism is a feeling, but hope is not a passive response. It is a way of thinking. It is important to recognize that you play a role in hope and that we can learn to take action in our future. How many of you ever stated, "I hope the sun comes out today"? That's optimism. There are 3 basic elements in the framework of hope: goal setting, pathways, and willpower. Let's take a closer look at these 3 elements of hope science. The first thing we want to address are goals. Goal setting is the cornerstone of hope. We wake up every day trying to achieve our goals. It is the essence of being human. We can have goals that are set to avoid something or goals that are geared more towards achievement. The nature of our goals dictates the pathways and willpower. Remember that as we move forward. One thing to emphasize about our goals, there is no right or wrong goal. And we suggest that you don't try to change the nature of other people's goals. Now let's talk about pathways. Pathways refer to the ability to identify routes towards goals and to find new routes around obstacles if necessary. It is usually a good idea to try and identify more than one pathway to a goal. Here is a pathway example of my own. If my goal is to lose weight, there's more than one pathway to that goal. I could limit my calorie intake, I could take up running, or I could begin another form of exercise. Those are pathways to my goal. I could then choose one of the pathways and then identify all the obstacles that may arise. Then I can write down all of the steps I need to take along that pathway. The next thing we want to talk about is willpower. Willpower is the ability to sustain motivation to move along these pathways. This is our capacity to focus our attention on pathways to be able to navigate and direct our mental energy. All 3 are necessary for hope to rise. What happens if you're missing one element? For example, what if you have a goal, but the pathways are blocked? What if you have the willpower, but the goal is just not attainable? Willpower without pathways is just a wish. Now let's take a look at some of the interesting data found in hope research regarding the 3 elements of hope. Remember when I said the nature of your goals determine the pathways and willpower? Research has shown that the higher hope individuals usually set achievement goals. They are more likely to take risk and stretch themselves. We all set avoiding goals, but the research shows that individuals with high trauma, constant stress, and low hope frequently set avoiding goals. To explain the difference between achievement and avoiding goals, think about 2 basketball players. One has the mindset that she wants to get the ball and score the winning basket. Another player has the mindset that she does not want the ball because she is worried that she will lose control and make a turnover for the team. Now think about the differences of the two behaviors during the game. One is doing everything possible to get open and receive the basketball, and the other is doing everything to avoid it being passed to her. I want all of you to know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with avoiding goals. We want to meet people where they are. So don't try to change someone else's goal. Think about when COVID hit. What was our goal? The goal was not to catch the virus. Now that's a really good goal. What we want you to know is staying in an avoidant mindset too long will not sustain hope. We want to eventually transition from avoidant to achievement. The next elements we want to discuss are pathways and stress. Moving on to pathways thinking. The research shows us that when people are experiencing chronic stress, multiple adversities, or have been through trauma in their lives, it's much more difficult to identify more than one pathway to a goal. And then when they hit a barrier, they often don't know what to do and may give up. Higher hope individuals are much better at identifying more than one pathway to their goals and able to maneuver around obstacles. The next one is willpower and stress. Remember, this is the amount of mental energy you put forth towards a goal. It is not about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. That's not really very helpful. Trauma and toxic stress have a significant impact on attention, self-regulation, and energy. Nutrition and rest have a significant impact on willpower. We only have so much energy every day, and tasks that are stressful and demanding deplete our mental energy. Let's take a look at how the science of hope works. How many of you have a driver's license? Looks like most of us are licensed to drive. Do you remember when you were planning to become a driver? What was the ultimate goal for wanting to get your license? Freedom is the ultimate reason most young people want to drive. We wanted that independence and freedom that comes with being able to drive yourself around and not rely on someone else. So think about how much you desired that freedom. Now let's do an exercise together. In order to get a driver's license, we had to pass a driver's test. Let's practice for that test together. To do this experience, I'm going to throw in a few stressors and adversities into the mix. Let's say the only car you have available to you for driving practice is a manual transmission vehicle. How many of you have ever driven a manual transmission vehicle? Those of you who have not, you can still participate in this exercise. Okay, so we're ready to get in the car and try to drive it. But here is another stressor. The car is parked at the bottom of a very steep hill. And there is a brand new, very expensive sports car parked directly behind you. Okay, before we proceed with practice, what is your goal? For some of us, most of us will say not to hit the car behind us. I'd like to point out that that's an avoidant goal, and that is a very good goal. Notice that when I've added the stressors and adversities, your achievement goal for freedom has turned into an avoidant mindset. So now let's listen to the person teaching us how to drive the car. They talk about balancing and release of your clutch with the depression of the gas. You give it a try and you lurch forward, but the car dies. What are you saying to yourself? Is there some negative self-talk? That can happen when we are trying something new. But you desire your freedom so much that you're going to try again. You do it again and you go a little bit further up the hill, but you got a slight sense of how it all works now, and you try it again. This time you make it to the top of the hill. Your teacher tells you, that was great, and then says, turn here and we'll be on flat land. I'll teach you how to go into second gear. After a little bit more time and maybe some jerky stops, you get it figured out and you're well on your way to your freedom. Here is a very interesting idea that comes from the science of hope. Hope begets hope. You failed a couple times, but you wanted it so badly. And each time you stalled the vehicle, you got a sense of how to balance those pedals and you kept going. When we are in adversity or facing stressors, small steps toward a goal are the best way to nurture and increase your hope because hope begets hope. I've been talking about higher and lower hope individuals. Would you like to take a few minutes and find out what your hope score is? In one of the attachments that your class instructor has passed out to you, there's an adult hope scale. Take a few minutes to answer the questions and then add up your hope scores. Hope scores are not ever labeled as good or bad. Remember our discussion about stress, adversity, and trauma? Those things present in your life affect your answers and ultimately your hope score. But any score is okay. That's the beauty of the hope framework. It meets you where you are in this moment. Let's take a look at some of the hope scores. On this slide, you will see a score of 8 through 16 that registers no or low hope. Slightly hope is a score of 17 through 39. Moderate hope is a score of 40 through 55. And finally, those who have a score 56 through 64 have very high hope. What is the opposite of hope? Despair is the most common answer we hear. However, the opposite of hope is apathy. Just like building hope is a process that is nurtured over time from pathway building, the loss of hope is a process that occurs from significant and often repeated attempts to move towards a goal with substantial pathways or willpower disruptions. When a person is experiencing apathy, they are thinking, no matter what I do, the outcome has been decided. Notice that anger and its cousin anxiety are closer to hope than the other emotions. When someone is experiencing anger, frustration, or anxiety, that may indicate that they have a very strong desire toward a goal, but the pathways are being blocked and they can't find a way around the obstacle. When we see anger and anxiety as a red flag to start looking for hope-centered solutions, begin to ask about goals, pathways, and willpower amid distress to see hope rise. Here's what we know so far. Hope can be taught. Hope is not magical thinking or positivity. It is a science grounded in research, data, and testing. It is one of the best predictors of well-being and flourishing. Hope is a goal-oriented, intentional thought process. And because it is a cognitive skill, it can be taught. All of this leads us to this question. How do we nurture hope? Again, here are key concepts from the science. Identify and clarify goals to increase your motivation and enthusiasm for this goal. Identify viable pathways. Think about the barriers and how you can adjust those pathways. What could go wrong? Create memories of future success. Imagine what it would be like to achieve the goal. What would be different? How will you know you are making progress? Raising hope begins to rob stress and adversity of its power. Are you ready to practice a little bit? One of the other attachments that your class instructor passed out to you is a goal worksheet. Please take a few minutes to write down one goal. If you have more than one goal, go ahead and write that one down too. Now let's go over this worksheet together. First, there are 3 rules to this worksheet. If you're working with another person on their goal, the other person's goal is theirs and no one else's. No goal is right or wrong. It is a good idea to ask them to rephrase their goal. Remember, there's nothing wrong with an avoided goal. We just don't want to stay in that mindset for a long period of time. During this exercise, don't try to find the pathways or solve anything. Just discuss the nature of the goal and talk about why it's important to you. So you've got your goal written down. As I go through these details, go ahead and complete that first column on your goal worksheet. Is your goal achievement or avoidant? We've discussed this one a lot. Sometimes a goal can be both, and it may need to be talked over with someone to really understand. Degree of difficulty. Circle low, moderate, or high. Ask yourself, how hard is it going to be to make these changes? Stretch or mastery. A stretch goal is when you are working towards something you have never done before, such as driving a manual transmission vehicle. A master goal is one you may have achieved before and you just need to put the steps together to do it. Time to completion. Try and put a time frame to your goal. If it's a really big goal with a lot of steps, there is nothing wrong with putting a long time frame to that goal. Degree of change involved. You can rate this one low, moderate, or high. A question to ask yourself, how much Will I have to change to achieve this goal? Will I have to sacrifice some things? And if so, how much? Support networks. List the people who can support you. Do you know someone or something who can help you with your pathways? Who can you contact when your willpower dips? Potential detractors. List people or things that might try to hold you back from your goal. It could be a family member, a boss, a child, yourself, or even time can be a detractor. Beneficiaries. Imagine that you have achieved your goal. Who will benefit? It could be you, your family, your team. Anyone will benefit from you achieving your goal. At the bottom of your worksheet, rate how successful you think you will be in achieving your goal. There is an associated worksheet that is also attached to this course. Its purpose is to guide you through the pathways towards your goal. After this class or in your spare time, we want you to take time to complete this worksheet. It is your first step to hope. Although we may not have time to go through this worksheet right now, it is very important that you spend time identifying the best pathway and then understanding what obstacles may arise. Make a plan for how you will navigate that obstacle. Identify some contingency plans if you can. Again, this worksheet will help put you on the path to hope so you can achieve your goals. Finally, it is important to remember, hope is the belief that your future will be better than today, and you have the power to make it so. So we've reached the end of this course. In closing, I want to leave you with some main highlights. Hope is grounded in scientific research, data, and testing. Hope is not a wish. Hope is a framework for action. Trauma, adversity, and stress can rob us of hope. Hope can be taught and hope can be measured. Hope is a social gift. Hope begets hope. Thank you for your engagement today. You all are so amazing, and I want you to know that you are on a pathway of hope for someone in your life, and you are in charge of your own life. So go out there and make it so. I'm Elizabeth Rose, training specialist with Oklahoma Department of Corrections and Hope Navigator. Hope you enjoyed this presentation.